I raised 3 kids, paid off a house, stayed loyal through 47 years of marriage, and when my back gave out, I even handed over the car keys out of trust. But I never imagined they'd sell my car behind my back. My car, my '74 Mustang Mach 1, cherry red, engine I rebuilt with my own 2 hands. I came home one afternoon and it was gone. Not stolen, sold. By my own son. It was just sitting there, Dad, he said. We needed the garage space. Garage space, my foot. They didn't want a senior hanging on to anything that reminded him of independence. They thought I wouldn't fight back, that I'd just sit quietly and let them decide what I needed. Well, they forgot something. I'm old, not dead, and I may not have the strength I used to, but I sure as hell remember how to play the long game. So I smiled, nodded, and waited. And then I bought a Tesla. Not just any Tesla, one they can't touch. But that was only the beginning. If you think selling my Mustang was low, wait till you hear what happened next. Like, share, subscribe. Because this story, it's electric. They always say you know the moment your life changes. For me, it was a Thursday. Sunny, mild breeze. The kind of day that makes you want to take the long route home. I was just coming back from the park, where I feed ducks and talk politics with Charlie, a Vietnam vet with no filter. My back hurt and knees were creaky, but nothing compared to the punch I took when I pulled up to my driveway and saw it. Or rather, didn't see it. The garage was open, empty. I froze. Not because I thought it was stolen. I live in a sleepy cul-de-sac in Arizona, where the only thing people steal is your time with long conversations. No, I froze because my heart knew before my brain could catch up. I walked in like a zombie. My son, Kyle, was there, sipping an oat milk latte like he was king of the castle. Where's my car? I asked. He looked up, smug as a cat. Oh, hey, Dad. Yeah, we sold it this morning. You weren't using it. Figure it was time. I blinked. You did what? Kyle gave me that fake sympathy face he uses when he knows he's crossed a line, but thinks he can charm his way through it. He put down his mug and leaned back in the bar stool, like he was on an episode of Shark Tank. Look, Dad, you hardly ever drove it. It was sitting there collecting dust. We thought it would be better to use a garage for storage. I asked. Me and Jenna, he said, referring to my daughter-in-law. We talked about it. You weren't doing anything with it. We figured. Figured? You sold my car without even asking me. He sighed. It wasn't safe. Dad, it's old. And with your back, it's not like you can drive stick anymore. I felt heat crawl up my neck. The kind of slow boil that makes your ears buzz. You know how long I saved for that car? How many nights I worked doubles while your mom was pregnant with you? That car was mine before I had a mortgage. I know, he said quickly, but you have to admit it wasn't practical anymore. Practical, that word again. Like I'm a spreadsheet, a column to be managed. I looked him straight in the eye and said, you made a mistake. He just shrugged. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, but not before noticing the paperwork on the counter. The bill of sale, sold for $8 grand, a damn insult. And guess whose name was on the check? Kyle's. I didn't say a word, just walked to my room. But in my head, a new engine started. One that ran on something far more powerful than gasoline. Revenge. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the recliner in my room, the old one with a dent that fits my spine perfectly. No TV, no radio, just the humming of betrayal. The words kept echoing in my ears. We thought you'd be fine with it. Fine? Would Kyle be fine if I walked into his house and sold his custom gaming PC? Or if I pawned his watch collection for grocery money? It was just sitting there. They say that like ownership disappears when something gets dusty. Around 2 a.m., I got up, walked to the garage barefoot. The echo was deafening. The cold concrete mocked me. No oil stains. No smell of gasoline. Just plastic bins stacked where my pride used a rest. The garage was no longer mine. The house didn't feel like mine either. I had become a guest in my own life. So I made a decision, not out of anger, out of principle. If they could make decisions for me, then so could I, and unlike them, I was going to do it without touching their stuff, but I was going to make them feel it. The Mustang was gone, but my story was about to get turbocharged. I always believe that silence is more dangerous than shouting. People expect rage, but quiet makes them nervous. So I went quiet. At breakfast, I didn't ask about the weather. I didn't ask if Jenna needed help with the dishes, or if Kyle had work meetings. I just ate my eggs and toast like I was clocking into a shift. Not a word, not even a glance. Kyle noticed first. "You okay, Dad?" I nodded. "You sure? You've been a little quiet." I offered, my fork tapping the plate gently. He nodded. "Just thinking," I said. He smiled, nervous, like a man who knows the lion is awake, but can't see where it's pacing. Over the next week, I became methodical. I woke early, wrote notes, made calls, and brushed up on some tech tutorials. Who knew YouTube had channels for seniors learning how to invest, shop, and set up encrypted passwords? I subscribed to all of them. I opened a new bank account. I transferred just enough money to it each day so it wouldn't be obvious. And I didn't breathe a word. If they thought selling the Mustang was the end of the story, they hadn't met the new version of me, retired, betrayed, and plotting. I was 19 when I first saw her. The 1974 Mustang Mach 1, cherry red, V8 engine, a body that made you forget everything else. She was sitting in the corner lot of a used car dealership run by a guy named Marty, who wore a BOLO tie and didn't believe in seat belts. I didn't have the cash, but I had determination. Worked double shifts at the lumberyard, cleaned out garages, shoveled snow, skipped meals, and then one day, I drove her home. The first night, I just sat in the driver's seat, hand on the wheel, staring at the stars. She wasn't just a car, she was a symbol of freedom, of effort, of manhood in motion. I took my first real date in that car. Her name was Linda. She hated loud engines but loved me anyway. We had our first kiss at a drive-in movie. The heater broke in '85, but we still drove her through the winter. I rebuilt an engine in our driveway, oil-stained fingers and all, while the kids played hopscotch on the sidewalk. Every memory I loved was wrapped around that car. Birthdays, anniversaries, first jobs, last arguments, and they sold it like it was junk. Well, I may be gray, but I'm not done driving. They took away my past, but I'm about to race into my future. It was a week later when they decided to confront me. It wasn't just Kyle anymore. It was a whole damn family. His wife, Jenna, the grandkids, and even my daughter, Susan, who hadn't stepped foot in the house for months. They sat me down like I was a misbehaving child. "Dad, we need to talk about the car," Kyle said. I looked around the room. A full house. The tension was thicker than my arthritis. "What about it?" I asked, taking my seat, but not letting them see how much I was enjoying this. Jenna crossed her arms. "We don't think you're handling this well. It was a family decision." "A family decision," I repeated, leaning back. "Really? You sold him my car without asking me, and now you're talking about family decisions." Susan jumped in. "Dad, you can't keep holding on to stuff that's impractical. You're not the young man you used to be. You need to let go." I leaned forward. "I'm not asking for your approval, Susan. I'm telling you that my car was mine. Not yours. Not Kyle's. Mine." The room fell silent. They didn't like being called out, but they also didn't know how much fun I was having with this. "We're just looking out for you," Kyle said. "We care about you." I wanted to laugh. Care? Right. But instead, I just smiled. "I appreciate that, Kyle, but I'm doing fine. And if you want to help me, maybe you can start by respecting my things." They shifted uncomfortably. A few glances were exchanged. "Well, we're just worried," Jenna said quietly. "Don't be. Worrying about me is no longer your job." And with that, I stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. The next day, Jenna called me again. But this time, the topic wasn't about my car. It was about my future. "Have you thought more about a retirement home?" she asked. all sugar and smiles. It was almost laughable how obvious they were being. I knew exactly what they were trying to do. "I'm not interested," I said bluntly. "Why would I move into some place where they tell me when to wake up and when to sleep?" "It's just that you're getting older," she said, as if she hadn't just disrespected my car a few days earlier. "I can still take care of myself," I replied. "I'm not ready to give up my independence just yet." She sighed. "Dad, it's not about independence. It's about safety." "Safety?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're worried about me?" The call ended there, but the thought lingered. They were laying the groundwork to get me out of the house. It was becoming clear. You know, when they say old dogs can't learn new tricks, they're wrong. Dead wrong. I went straight to the library that afternoon, checked out a few books on investing, digital security, and even learned how to make a video on TikTok. I figured it would be funny to get a little social media action going. Maybe blow off some steam and show the kids I could still learn new things. They had no idea that their old man was about to drop some serious knowledge on them. I even signed up for an online class on how to buy stocks. Never too old to build wealth, right? The revenge was brewing. And this time, it wasn't just about a car. The idea had been forming in my head for days. It wasn't just about getting a car to replace the Mustang. No, I needed a car that would make a statement. A car that would scream revenge and show my family that you can't just walk all over me. And the answer? It was obvious. A Tesla, but not just any Tesla. The Model S, high-tech, sleek, fast, and smart, just like me. I did my research, watched reviews, talked to the dealer, made sure I understood all the bells and whistles. This was going to be my triumph, my little victory dance. I wasn't just buying a car, I was buying my independence back. I walked into the dealership like I owned the place. The salesman, a bright-eyed young guy who didn't know what hit him, greeted me with a handshake and a smile. "How can I help you today, sir?" I grinned. "I'm here to test drive a Tesla." The Model S. His eyebrows shot up. He wasn't expecting that. The drive was everything I'd hoped for. Smooth, quiet, fast. I felt like I was in a spaceship. Every turn, every acceleration, it was perfect. When we got back to the dealership, I looked at him and said, "I'll take it." And just like that, I knew my life was about to change. You ever sign something that makes you feel like you're buying more than just a car? That was me. The Tesla dealership had this sleek coffee machine, smooth jazz playing, and a young salesman who kept calling me sir like I was royalty. I picked the Model S Plaid. All the bells and whistles. Midnight silver. 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. I didn't just want to buy a car. I wanted to buy a statement. One my family would hear loud and clear. I signed the final document with the kind of grin you wear when you're holding 4 aces and nobody suspects a thing. As the salesman handed me the keys, I told him, this isn't just a purchase. It's the beginning of a beautiful revenge story. He laughed. I wasn't joking. Driving that Tesla out of the dealership felt like floating on a silent storm cloud. No engine rumble, just a satisfying whoosh of instant acceleration. I drove straight past my daughter's house. She was outside watering her perfectly trimmed rose bushes, the same bushes she planted after I gave her and her husband the down payment for that house. She squinted at the Tesla as I glided by. I waved. She didn't. 10 minutes later, I got a group text from my son-in-law. "Dad, what the hell? Is that yours?" I didn't reply. Every Sunday, like clockwork, they expected me to show up at their place for dinner, usually in my truck with a pie and with plenty of patience. This time, I pulled up in the Tesla. The kids were staring out the front window like I'd driven in with a spaceship. Pop got a new car," my granddaughter screamed. My daughter looked like she'd swallowed her iced tea the wrong way. My son-in-law's eyes were wide, the kind of wide you get when you realize your retirement plans just swerved off the road. "Dad, this is you bought a Tesla?" she said, her voice caught somewhere between concern and disbelief. I smiled, held out the key fob shaped like a miniature Tesla, and said, "Yep, since my last one mysteriously disappeared." They had the audacity to act surprised. After dinner, My son-in-law followed me out to the driveway. "You really spent that much on a car?" he asked. "You could have just let it go. It was just a truck." "Just a truck," I repeated. "Funny, you didn't say that when you sold it behind my back." He looked caught, like a raccoon in a trash can spotlight. "That was a mistake. We thought it was junk, and we needed space. For your boat." I interrupted. "Silence. And your new grill? I see it's about the size of my truck bed." He raised his voice. "Look, it's your money. But don't come crying to us when you can't afford meds or something down the line." I got in the Tesla, looked at him dead in the eyes, and said, "This car isn't a midlife crisis. It's a late life awakening." Then I floored it. The family group chat exploded that night. My son accused me of being irresponsible. My daughter said I was trying to prove something. My niece asked if she could get a ride. I turned off notifications and opened a bottle of wine. They thought I was bluffing, that I'd fold under guilt. But I was done being the family ATM. Done being the silent ride giver, the unpaid babysitter, the "can you spot me $200 until Friday" guy. They sold my old truck? Fine, I bought a new life, and we were just getting started. Summer rolled around, and with it came the annual 4th of July family barbecue, the one I used to host. This time, my son offered to take it off my plate. Translation, he wanted control. I showed up fashionably late, in the Tesla course. Music barely audible, but just enough for my grandkids to notice I was bumping some 80s rock with subwoofer level bass. My daughter barely said hello. My son-in-law came over with a forced smile and plastic cup of iced tea. "You really still driving that spaceship?" "I really am. How's your Civic?" He chuckled, then tried the usual gaslighting. "Dad, don't take this the wrong way, but I think you're acting out. Ever since the truck thing, you've been different." I stared him down. "Different? No, I just stopped being your doormat. It's confusing, I get it." He blinked. "You wanted an old man who kept quiet and paid for everything. Sorry." He retired. They wanted drama? I gave it to them. That night, I posted a photo of my Tesla on Facebook, captioned it, "They sold my old truck behind my back." So I bought a Tesla, not out of spite, out of principle. I didn't name names, but oh, everyone knew. The post got hundreds of likes. Old neighbors commented, "You always were classy. Glad you stood up for yourself. That car is sexy." Even my old high school crush commented a fire emoji. My kids? They were livid. Group chat lit up like Christmas. "You embarrassed us. You made it public. Why would you humiliate your own family?" To which I replied, "Funny, I don't remember you worrying about that when you humiliated me selling my truck." Scene. No reply. They tried to flip the narrative. A week later, I got a concerned visit from my daughter. She brought homemade cookies and an envelope. "We've been talking," she started, "and we think maybe it's time you consider downsizing. Something safer." Safer? She meant contained. Inside the envelope were brochures for assisted living facilities. Nice ones, with smiling people playing bingo and pool therapy. "Are you suggesting I move out of my house?" I asked calmly. No, just explore options. You're alone. It's a big place. You could fall. You're not young." I smiled. Then I pulled out a second envelope from the drawer behind me. It was a reverse mortgage cancellation. I had just paid off the entire home. In cash. "Don't worry," I said. "I'll downsize to a bigger life. One that doesn't include being managed." That night, I sat down with my lawyer. Over bourbon. I'd had the same for 20 years. Equal shares to the kids, with little trust clauses to protect their irresponsibility. Now, I was rewriting everything. My granddaughter, the only one who never rolled her eyes when I spoke, she got the biggest slice. My old Army buddy Carl, who helped me through my wife's passing. He got a generous grant for his veterans nonprofit. And as for my children, they were moved to a line near the bottom. "All previous allocations are hereby revoked due betrayal of trust and elder manipulation." The lawyer paused. "Want to soften that language?" I shook my head. let it sting. 2 weeks later, I entered the Tesla in a local car show. Mostly younger folks, muscle cars, loud engines. But my car, it drew a crowd. An 82-year-old man in aviators, leaning on the front with a sign that read, "They stole my truck. I upgraded my life." Reporters loved it. One small-town blog wrote, "Revenge never looked so electric." My son found the article and called me, fuming. "Why are you dragging this out in public?" I said calmly, "Because silence was what let you all get away with it for so long. This isn't revenge. This is revelation." Then I hung up. The Tesla rolled into my driveway like a spaceship landing on a battlefield. Sleek, silent, smug, even just like me at that moment. I didn't tell anyone I bought it. Why would I? They sold my perfectly good car without asking. Let them stew in confusion. When my daughter Lizzie walked up the driveway that afternoon, she stopped cold. "Whose car is that?" I didn't even flinch. "Mine." Her jaw dropped. "You bought a Tesla?" "Yep, full cash. No payments, no regrets." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "But you said you were broke." I smiled. I said I was on a budget, and my new budget includes peace of mind and 3.1 seconds 0 to 60. 2 days later, my living room turned into a courtroom. Mark, my son-in-law, was the loudest. "You're being irresponsible, Dad. Buying a luxury car when you were just complaining about gas prices." I sipped my coffee. "It's electric." "Lizzie, we sold your car to protect you. You shouldn't be driving anyway." I looked her dead in the eye. "Funny, I didn't need protecting when I was babysitting your kids, fixing your roof, or paying for your husband's certification program." Silence. "I know what this is really about." I added, "Control, and you lost it." Here's the truth. I've always been saver. Grew up during tougher times. I never flaunted money, but I made quiet investments, index funds, a rental property I fixed up myself, and yes, a chunk of Bitcoin I bought as a joke in 2015. So when they assumed I was broke after retirement, I let them believe it, because sometimes the best way to find out who really respects you is to give them the impression that you have nothing to offer. Turns out, when they thought I had nothing, they also thought they had a right to everything. By week's end, the whole cul-de-sac knew about the Tesla. My old friend Gary from 2 doors down dropped by, heard you traded the Buick in for something futuristic. I chuckled. Nah, the Buick was stolen by my own family. He laughed, then stopped when I didn't. After I told him the full story, Gary slapped his knee. Damn, that's better than a Hallmark movie. Even younger neighbors started waving more, nodding at the car. I wasn't invisible anymore. Strange how some chrome and quiet acceleration could do that. One night, Lizzie showed up again. This time, she brought paperwork. "We've been thinking, maybe it's time you considered assisted living." Oh, there it was. The end game. I stared at the folder. "You want me to sell my house and move into a facility so you can..." "What? Inherit early?" She flinched. "No, Dad, that's not what this is." "Then what is it?" She faltered. It's just easier for everyone." I stood up, calm, cold, and ready. "Tell you what, I'll consider assisted living right after I test the autopilot feature to Vegas." Her eyes widened. "Vegas?" I smiled. Got a date with a blackjack table and some free buffet coupons. Life's just getting started. I didn't just go to Vegas to blow off steam. I went with a purpose. I checked into a high-rise hotel with a strip view, ordered room service like a king, and sat down with an estate attorney I'd secretly hired months ago. See, while my kids were busy plotting to take care of me, I was busy rewriting my will. Again, this time, every penny would go to people who had truly helped me over the years. A waitress in the diner who always packed my apple pie for free. My mailman who fixed my fence once. The dog shelter down the road. And not a cent to the ones who betrayed me. Back home, I reviewed the footage. Oh yes, I had installed cameras. The day after they took my car. Guess what I caught? Mark, my son-in-law, rummaging through my filing cabinet. Lizzie flipping through my financial statements like she was reading a recipe. They didn't even try to hide it. I copied everything to a flash drive labeled, "Play this if I die suspiciously." I even left a note taped to the back. "Smile, you're on Dad's retirement cam." I invited the whole family over for dinner, one last time. Made their favorite. Lasagna, garlic bread, and that expensive chocolate cake they used to beg me for as kids. After dessert, I stood up. "Before we wrap up, I have something to say." They all looked up. "I've sold the house." Silence. "And no, you won't be inheriting it, or anything else. The money is going to people who never stole from me. People who never tried to manipulate me. People who, shocking I know, actually treated me with respect." Gasps, outrage, yelling. And then I pulled out my phone and played the surveillance footage on the TV. Mark turned beet red. Lizzie stormed out. My youngest son, Jake, who'd stayed silent through most of this, looked up at me. "Dad, why didn't you tell me all this was happening?" I shrugged. I wanted to see who would speak up. You stayed quiet, which was smarter than anything your sister did. But silence doesn't mean innocence. He lowered his head. "I'll give you a choice," I said gently. "Stay in my life as my son, not as someone waiting on a check." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry, Dad, for not saying anything." A week later, I was cruising down the highway, windows down, Sinatra on full blast, and the wind giving my bald spot a sunburn. Freedom. I had money. I had peace. And I had finally stood up for myself. People think growing old means giving up control, but they forget age doesn't mean weakness. It means clarity. And as I watched the sunset on a road I chose, I realized they tried to write me off. But the old man wrote the final chapter, with flair, revenge, and one hell of a punchline. My kids wanted my life insurance, so I spent every penny. A month after the confrontation, I took one last look at my old town in the Tesla's rearview mirror. The same streets where I taught my kids to ride bikes, where I used to shovel their driveways during snowstorms while they were too busy to visit me. Gone. In the mirror. Just like my guilt, I wasn't running away. I was choosing freedom. I found a peaceful community outside Santa Fe, full of fellow old rebels. Not a nursing home, not a retirement cage. A real community. We play poker on Fridays, drink whiskey on Tuesdays, and swap grandkid drama without holding back. And here's the kicker. None of them care about my money. They just care that I'm me. Back in my hometown, Lizzie and Mark received a package. Inside, a framed photo of my Tesla with the words burned into the frame. "Bought this with the money you thought was yours. Hope your next scheme comes with better brakes." Oh, and I had the post office bill them for signature delivery. Jake, my quiet son, started calling again, not asking for money, just checking in. "Dad," he said one night, "I've been thinking about what you said. You were right about everything." He flew out to visit. We hugged like father and son for the first time in years. I didn't tell him, but I updated my will one last time that week, just in case someone actually earned it. Here's my advice to anyone who feels discarded, disrespected, or downright betrayed by their family. Get up, get smart, get even, but do it with style. They sold my car thinking I was weak, so I bought a Tesla and drove right out of their lives. And I never looked back. But you, if you've been underestimated, laughed at, dismissed because of your age, don't just sit there. Write your own ending. Oh, and before you go, like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes the best revenge story starts with a stolen Buick and ends with a six-figure Tesla.